Can you believe it? It's extraordinary.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, after a short break, we're back here with Andrew showing off his amazing Adelaide Crows collection.
We're just getting started.
We're only just getting started. It's
enjoying it, guys.
Oh, mate, so are we. This is, I think, the best part of collecting.
Yeah, the stories.
The stories,
sure.
and the stories, and sharing the stories, and seeing other people's stories that they've got together.
I'll jump forward ahead here. So
I just thought, as much as I've got some other older things to show, I just thought we'd be very topical of the weekend. Heartbreaking game, but a great game for some of the talent we saw on display. But this is
just a bit
lower. There we go.
Look at him.
So this is young Riley's rookie card, which a couple of days ago was probably about $20, but won't be that tonight.
Yeah. What do you reckon it'll be worth now?
Look, to be honest, the company Select that has the license for footy cards, and they've had it since 1993. They have been doing this series for the last couple of years where they basically do the top 10 draft picks.
Yep.
But it's pretty much on an order basis.
Yep.
So, you get a situation where Gold Coast might have 70 cards produced and Collingwood will have 180 produced.
Right.
So it sort of depends a little bit on the, supply
so
and
for
demand.
Adelaide, it would have a fair few more than...
Yes, so the classic thing with this one is because obviously Riley's our highest ever draft pick, this was a series of 225.
Right.
So 225 people thought, I've got to order a card of Riley.
Yes, yeah.
And just a quick shout out, I do have a card for Riley because I don't know whether he's actually got this yet because a friend of mine runs Sports Card World in the city, Matt, and Matt said some time ago Riley came in and they were looking at the store and I think the comment was made, do you have the card that I'm on? And, it's fascinating. I mean, a lot of players, it's lovely to get them. I mean, if I was a footballer, I'd be like, Mum, here's my first footy card.
Absolutely.
First ever footy card.
Yep.
And especially with rookie cards, you see it so popular in the NBA,
exactly.
American sports.
That's right. So there's a lot of guys that collect their own stuff, their families collect them, their nanas, etc., which is great. So it was interesting. This was obviously something you had to order. You couldn't sort of get that out of a packet.
Yep.
So there you go. So ever meet up with Riley post-COVID when you can actually chat to players again?
Yes.
I do have a spare.
We'll put it out there in the universe as well. And Riley, if you're a Patreon, mate, and you want to have a chat.
That's right. It's here waiting for you.
That's it. Let us know just on the offhand. We'll throw it out to the podcast as well and just say, because every now and then we throw something out there to players and we get a response and we'll see if we get anything back.
Now, I just thought I'd go back to a couple of footballs.
Yes.
Because talking about Graham Corns, I did also tweet to him a couple of days ago, and obviously he's pretty busy, so I don't think he's either seen it yet. But I've always been fascinated by the fact that we had the Faulkner contract.
Yes.
The famous Faulkner footy, which was always a bit more pointy than the Sharon,
so
believe it or not.
when was this? When did we have this?
So
in the 90s,
91 to 94,
right.
I believe. So it's pretty much the Graham Corns years.
So just for home games, was it? Because we controlled it?
That's right. So we would also take it with us to the away games, but it would be our ball for 2 quarters, I believe, and the Sharon for 2 quarters.
Interesting.
Right.
And I believe, and this is the sort of part of what I was asking Graham, and I've asked a few other people, and I think I've heard him say this before, that the famous story is they all turned up to these first trial games that we showed the footy budgety thing from before.
Yeah.
And of course, what happened was, I think the story goes, someone said, "Who's got the footballs?"
Oh no!
And it was like, well, this is a new club. It's not like there was, any club rooms there to just go and grab the footballs. It's the Acco hut, and that was it. So, I think possibly that night they may have just done laps and running.
But they went down the Seaton Ramblers Football Club eventually. I think.
Right. Yes, just down the road. Yeah, that's highly likely. So.
Yep.
I believe the story goes, and this is what I'm sort of interested to get the definitive idea on, is that Faulkner sort of must have heard about this, and Faulkner obviously were one of the great football companies for a long time. You still can buy them, but obviously they don't use them for the league. But I believe Faulkner said, look, we'll sponsor the Crows and get you some footy. So I think that's how the Faulkner thing came about.
Right.
And Faulkner I believe, was being used a bit in the SANFL as well.
Yes.
So, Sharon obviously was a very much a Victorian ball, and then you had Burleigh was the Western Australian ball. So,
yes. Yep.
the story behind these two footies is quite interesting. These turned up fairly recently, had been in Rob Gerard's Clipsal collection.
Right.
Obviously, Rob Gerard, number one ticket holder and amazing supporter of sport, Olympics, football, you name it. He supported sports and the arts. Now, I can't prove this 100%, but I'm almost certain this is the ball used in the second quarter of the first ever game.
Oh, amazing.
Wow.
Now, the reason I
Amazing.
say that is because it has, don't know how well I'm showing that, but it has,
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
which you would never think this would be a good thing, but this is signed by the umpires.
Yes.
So normally if you get a signed footy and it's got the team on it, you can sort of go, well,
It might be from
Yeah.
that year. This player left.
what game is it?
Yep.
You know, was it used in a match? This ball is signed by
Is that Hayden Kennedy?
Hayden Kennedy. Yep. So it's signed by Hayden Kennedy. Some of the I've found out the details of some of the other guys, but Randall Shepherd, Peter Cameron. So Peter Cameron and Hayden Kennedy, I believe, are the two central umpires.
Yeah.
But then it's got the goal umpire and his written goal umpire, which is really which is
Just
really,
in case you forget him.
just in case you forget him.
Yeah.
That's a man who knows his place in the world.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Put down who you are. But the beauty of this was a friend of ours who is currently an umpire and also follows footy very closely. I messaged him and I said, "Hey, I'm trying to find out what era because I bought this thinking it was Sharon. It's probably 1993, 1994.
Yep.
Unusual. It's signed by these guys." But knowing that Rob Gerrard had some amazing stuff, that he'd purchased at auctions, I thought, it's probably a game ball.
Yep.
So it's got some good history to it. Turns out that my friend first message back was, "What did you pay for it?"
Oh, that's a good sign.
That's
That's
a-
a very good sign. Yeah.
That's like the best thing you want to hear is when someone said, "What did you pay for it?" And I said, like it was $80 or $90.
Yeah.
And he goes, "You're shitting me." Pardon the language, people. And I said, "What do you mean?" And I said, "I know it's got these umpires." He said, without even looking at it, he said, "I think that's the umpiring group from the first game."
Wow.
And the interesting thing is it's also signed by Chris McDermott. So McDermott signed it at some stage as well, which could have been possibly not on the night, might have been on the night of the auction of this ball. But of course, the other thing I did, and you can see this on my Facebook page, I thought then, no, surely we used Faulkner footies for that first game.
Sure.
Yeah.
So straight away, I'm on to my friend Leighton saying,
Yep.
let's go straight to the videotape.
He'll have the
And
evidence.
he'll have the evidence. Like
Yep.
he's amazing. Like he literally sometimes surprises me how quickly he gets back. He says,
Me too.
I've checked that game and no, we didn't wear that jumper.
Yes.
This particular player.
Yep.
Well, sometimes, luckily with the first game, I do have a pretty good
Quality.
version of it because they released it on DVD. But
Yeah, exactly. So, of course, what was fascinating was straight away I started getting these images and he said, first quarter's a Faulkner. Well, I think it was the second quarter. Anyway, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, a yellow Sharon is used in one quarter.
Yeah.
There you go. And
So,
I've
incredible.
just been Googling footy tables. What did you say the signatures were? Peter Cameron and Hayden Kennedy?
Yes.
They
Yep.
were definitely both the umpires in that
Wow.
first
Yep,
game.
that's right. And I
Confirmed
think all
here.
the boundary umpire, and I believe there's actually one goal umpire who didn't sign it, but everyone else that's in that game. So when you look at the first footy record that we showed earlier,
Yep.
they are all listed as playing, like officiating
Yep.
that night. So that's, I would have to say that's probably
I think it's
ridiculous.
confirmed.
I'm so lucky.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I think that is probably, without a doubt, my best piece of memorabilia by a mile.
That's one of the coolest things I've ever seen in person, Andrew. That's
yeah,
amazing.
so there you go.
Hold it? Do you want to
Yeah.
hold
I kind of want to hold it. I almost don't
Yeah.
want to, though,
Yeah.
in case
no gloves, but I'll let you guys off.
I'll hold it right up here to the
Yeah.
to the GoPro too, so you can all see what we're gushing over.
Perfect.
That's just.
I mean, it's a beautiful
amazing.
ball, even if it wasn't
is.
on that
Yeah.
game. Just the Sharon and the
Well, you'd
Um,
almost buy it for $80-90, even if it wasn't.
that's
the
right, just
official
as a nice
version.
Sharon.
keepsake, is it?
Yeah.
Yep.
And I
That is
must admit, as
incredible.
much as I understand that we need to have sponsors for all these reasons of bringing in money to clubs,
Yeah.
they're nice not having McDonald's on them or
No,
Volkswagen
definitely.
or
No,
Toyota,
they're
etc.
very clean footies. for
So
sure.
now to the red one,
Yes.
which I've had less success authenticating,
Right.
but I bought this one thinking this was actually the better ball because I thought at the time it's very unusual. It's signed by Chris McDermott, but it's also signed by Dale Waitman.
Yes.
And I thought, Dale Waitman, Richmond captain, that's really unusual. The ball's got crows on it, so to sort of signify this is a crow's ball.
Oh, hang on.
And I'm thinking,
I'm
Dale
getting-
Waitman,
I'm
why?
getting a little bit excited here.
I'm thinking,
Andrew,
why
with
has
this
Dale
one.
Waitman signed this footy? And then I've gone, I don't suppose this could be our first win in Victoria.
Quite possibly.
Yeah.
So the tricky thing is we used a red ball because it was a day game at the MCG.
Right.
Wet is really, really wet. It's got quite a few little marks and things on it. But that one's a bit harder to definitively say this is the one of the balls
Yes.
from the first win. But again, because of Rob Gerrard's place in the club and being a benefactor of helping the club, etc. I think it's highly likely that he's bought this at an auction as one of the balls from the first Victorian win. I did actually message Dale Waitman through somewhere,
trying to get confirmation.
Instagram, and he's now an assistant coach at Richmond, just to say, do you remember? And it's 1991, so it's a long time ago.
Absolutely.
Any chance you remember signing this ball as this is our first ever win, one of our first ever win balls? But anyway, so possibly I don't really put that up to the camera. But of course, that's lovely too, just because it's the Faulkner, which is a little bit unusual, a bit rare.
A great South Australian brand. Could it be? And I don't know much about. I'm not sure about Victorian captains from back in the day. Couldn't it be a state of origin?
Yeah, I mean that's certainly possible. I think the only thing
the fact that it's got
throws it out, just the crows bit throws it out.
Yeah.
The other thing I was going to say that's quite interesting is that I don't know when they dropped off the native brand as the logo, but anyway they did. But that was an interesting one that
with the Indigenous friend throwing a boomerang on it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
slightly insensitive.
And of course, and Sharon was of course the kangaroo brand.
Yeah,
which it still is. So yeah, they're probably two of my weirder finds, and luckily for me, I suppose, didn't pay huge amounts.
Yeah,
I'll just jump onto some jumpers because
please do.
Leighton said you must bring some jumpers in.
Yes.
This one was my friend Joel Williams that I mentioned earlier from Melbourne. Messaged me and said, you can see said I'm at an auction. There's some stuff from a pub in Victoria that's been on display for years. It's all part of a guy called Wale Roberts' collection. He was a South Adelaide player, went to play for South Melbourne, and he said there's this number 5 here. It's a player's jumper, and turns out it's Bruce Abernethy.
Yeah.
So there you go.
He would love to forget that exists. Sorry.
Yeah, that's right, exactly. So Bruce Abernethy, and I think from memory through Leighton and another friend of ours, Jeremy, who does amazing finding of photos.
Yes.
We think pretty much we've worked out the game that it was worn in, which I think was versus Brisbane.
Yeah, it could definitely be multiple games, but there's one. There's one.
It looks like there's one where it clearly looks like it's match worn.
Yeah.
Just with positioning of a few things like badges and stuff. So
amazing.
A 1992, and as Leighton would tell you, these earlier jumpers are quite tricky to actually date because the 91 to 94, the design is pretty much all that.
Yep.
It's all the same, other than as you mentioned, I think in the Get Your Crown episode with Jarman having the collar on with the long sleeves. Other than that, that's pretty much the
And it was all Seacom too, wasn't it?
That's right, all Seacom, and they've sort of all got the numbers. And of course, it sounds silly, but having a Bruce Abernethy is actually a good thing because he's not someone that every kid was going to put number 5 on that. Without being rude to Bruce, was a great player.
You see a lot of 32s,
at that time it's going to be number 11,
number 6, 11, just sewn onto the back.
Yeah, it's going to be number 2 probably with Andrew Jarman.
Yes.
I love too that it's sewn onto the back as well. It's not it's not heat pressed or transferred.
No, it's
actually
the old shorts material. And so this one is 1995.
Yeah.
And
who's that signature?
As Leighton will... Yeah, so Ben Hart.
Yes.
My wife helped me. I have to give a shout out to Nicole. She helped me with my little tags.
Oh, yes.
This is if you go under a bus. It's not $100. As Leighton will tell you, interestingly, in 1995, and this is the last year of the... Although these are not actually wool, but this was the last year of the woolen
acrylic
style, the acrylic, but the woolen style. They added Toyota.
There you go.
And it's stitched on.
And I think the year before in 94 was like every other team added a sponsor to the back except us, or maybe there was a few other teams, or most of them.
Yeah, they just started getting we need a bit more sponsorship on, etc.
Painstakingly sewn on too, it looks like it's...
That's right, properly machine done. You can really sort of see.
Wow, each individual letter.
So there is a story behind this one, if I show a bit better to the camera. How did you find this?
So this was fascinating. A friend of mine sent me a message saying, I've seen this jumper, what do you think of it? I said, it's fantastic, who's selling it, are you buying it?
Yep.
He said, no, I'm not too sure about it. I don't think I'll buy it. But it turns out a friend of mine that I know through card collecting, who's a huge Geelong fan, bought it back in the day at an end-of-season auction and bought it. I don't know who the auction was for, but he was at the auction. I didn't even ask him what he paid for it, but obviously I paid a lot more for it now.
Yes.
So he purchased it, and the crazy part was he's actually said to me, there's a COA with this jumper, even though I knew it didn't need a COA because...
Yeah. Well, you track it. And
that's right. With the stitching and all those things, it's 100% Ben Hart's jumper.
But with the early jumpers, you almost never see a COA.
That's right. Very, very rare.
Yeah.
But interestingly, I think because this was a special auction item. And someone that's a great Crows person, John Condon, who's been the historian for a long time. I think he's doing it a bit less now. But the COA actually has, this was worn by Ben Hart in the 1995 season.
Wow.
And it's signed by John Condon, General Manager at Adelaide Football Club.
My God.
So, yeah, COA jumper from 1995, which is very weird.
It might be one of the first or one of the very
COA jumpers.
only COA jumpers from
especially
that
from
era.
the Crows.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So, yeah, the COA was... And the weird part was, when I got it from my friend Mike, he sort of said, I think there's a COA, but I can't find it. I said, that's fine, mate. It doesn't need a COA. I know what it is. I know it's genuine. Hence I paid, very good money for it. But interestingly, then just out of the blue, he sent me the COA because I found it. And I was like, that was brilliant. So, yeah, that's certainly... and obviously with where Ben Hart became in the pantheon of great, Australian footballers and particularly Crows.
Especially, you usually see a few modern era Hart jumpers. We never see an early one.
No.
Yeah, the early ones are
Very
quite
rare.
hard. So I was certainly very lucky with that. I'm going to switch now to shorts.
Yes.
Now, shorts is something that I've honestly not seen too much in people's collections.
They're very weird.
Yeah.
I know one guy that's mad on them.
Okay.
He lives in the Northern Territory, and I've sold him a couple of pairs years ago. Back in the day when the club used to sell things at the end of season in the shed, which was to fund the end of season trip, and the players are exactly, and the players are very smart because Mark Rashuda would be up there and he'd be like, here's Ben Marsh's jumper, it's $200, and everyone would say that's great, and then they go, here's Mark Rashuda's jumper, let's start at 1,000. So the boys were very onto it. They knew who was the more marketable players, which is fair enough. But they'd sell everything: the tracksuits, boots.
Wow.
I mean, I'm sure they kept some things for themselves, but they were certainly selling off the spare stuff. Anyway, so I'm standing there, and Rod Jamison's there.
Right.
And I just thought, and of course you're trying to sort of work out where you're going to spend your couple $100. It's like, I really like that, but that's now gone to $400. I can't afford that. Anyway, he had these shorts, and I can't remember what I paid at the time, maybe $40 or $50, which was probably reasonable money.
Yeah.
But the thing that was lovely, and this is where the stories comes back into it.
Yeah.
I said, would you mind signing it? And he actually, this is 1999. So 1999, and he literally had decided I'm retiring, it's the end of my career, and he actually put 153, which is how many games he played, over and out, and then signed it.
Wow. And it's very worn.
They're trash. They're horrible.
A lot of mud marks.
But of course, as collectors, we don't wash things.
That'll somehow ruin the prestige.
Yeah.
Let's just show the audience exactly that. The 153 over
and out. Yep.
That is
so he decided as soon as he was signing it, it was like, yeah, that's it. Well, he probably thought.
The funny thing is, I didn't ask him. I just said, would you mind, because they all had texters to sign things. I just said, would you be good enough to sign it? And he put that on it, which I just thought was fantastic.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Part in my head, he looks at you, looks at the text, looks at the shorts, and just goes, this is it.
Yep.
I'm done. I'm retiring.
That's right.
Andrew, you seem like a nice guy. You're the first person I'm going to tell.
153. Yep.
That's
incredible.
Amazing.
So, the 153 was always really... So, it's interesting. I don't have a lot of shorts, but there's one pair that I'm sort of keeping because of the...
Oh, yeah.
If it didn't have that, it'd be like...
What player is it?
What player is it? Could be anyone, but it was like, this is my shorts, and actually I'm giving it up.
Amazing.
So, that was crazy.
Awesome.
I'm going to skip to one of my... favourite players.
Yes.
I'll do a bit of AFLW because I want to do a couple of AFLW things.
Yep.
So obviously they did auctions of the 2019, 2019 GF jumpers.
Yep.
And luckily I managed to get Eloise Jones.
Oh, beautiful.
Awesome.
EJ's,
great player.
I do actually also have Chelsea Randall, but that's technically my son's jumper. This is actually mine.
Right. You're also right not to bring that in because I might have pocketed it.
Yeah, well, my son Callum at the time, I said, we're going to buy these jumpers, what are we going to bid on? And I said, EJ was incredible. Like, she had three, like that amazing goal, I think, on the second quarter siren, where she kicked that goal in the pocket.
And just a great day, grand final.
Yeah, the 53,000. They played so well. Obviously we're all disappointed they couldn't quite get there this year.
Right.
But so EJ was really happy to get one of her jumpers, and she's
awesome.
It's interesting. EJ is one of those players like Daniel Ponta, like Chloe Shear. All the skills, they know where they are.
Yep.
They are just wonderful players.
And they're amazing people too, mate. I've got to say, I've had the honour of interviewing a couple of the girls throughout the journey, and every one of them, they are, and they're so down to earth, and they play footy for all the right reasons.
Yeah.
Not that the men don't, but you can tell that they're doing this for the love of the game, and because they've finally got this opportunity to play for the love of the game.
Exactly.
And here's that grand final patch. So they did it nicely
beautiful.
for the 2019 version.
Yep.
get a bit closer
Yeah, we'll
shot
get a
up.
close-up shot.
They have changed over the years.
Yeah, that's right. The first ones was more like just a sort of a straight on
Heat press
Heat
in
press,
2017, I think. Yeah,
Yeah, this one's sort of more of the
the nice
embroidered.
felty
Yeah, it's
material.
a little bit next level, which is lovely. So yeah, EJ, wonderful player.
Yes.
Good on you, EJ.
Now, a couple more jumpers. I brought this one in. It's not necessarily what I'd class as, one of the bigger players, but we mentioned
But
before.
it's a classic jumper.
Classic jumper. Really, all of us guys sort of tend to love the Adidas stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So this is Troy Bond.
Oh, wow.
Wow, yeah.
But the thing that's fascinating about this, and this comes back to, I was mentioning a friend of ours, Jeremy, earlier, who's just, he is like Mr. Jumpers. He's incredible. his knowledge is amazing. But I said to him, look, I've come across this 1999 Troy Bond. Can you do some photo matching? See if you can find, where he wore it, etc. Turns out this is the jumper from the iconic photo where he's standing next to his brother in one of the showdowns.
Oh, wow.
So 1999 showdown. There's a famous photo. If you put in Troy Bond, Shane Bond, it'll always come up as the two of them standing next to each other.
That's great,
isn't it?
Shane wearing his port jumper.
It's almost good how the Camry patch
Yes.
goes to the collar,
Well,
so
is
it's
that-
easier to find.
is
That's the
that
sort of
how-
stuff.
Yeah.
That's the clue. They're the sort of breadcrumbs that you
That's right.
follow.
Those weird little, that just goes to there, or, the way, I mean, sometimes you'll be lucky there'll be rips or tears or something.
Yeah.
But, that type of extra little bit of...
Get a bit of a full shot for the camera, but
Yeah.
Awesome.
So, yeah, Troy Bond, who obviously great player, but the fact that we managed to get a photo match on that for the photo of him and Shane in one of the 99 showdowns, which is... Don't know whether we won or lost it, but...
We probably lost it back then.
yeah, that's right. We probably did that 99
That's
season.
fine.
99
not a great
season
one.
wasn't
No,
great.
it's a forgettable one, but that's okay. So amazing jumpers came out of it with the Adidas deal. So
Yes, exactly.
that's what we're here for. Look at it. So viewers, you can't really see exactly what Andrew's doing right now, but it's like he's got that magic bag. They was it the Cat in the Hat that's got the magic hat that just never ends?
I did rush a little bit in trying to find something a little bit quirky, but I thought we've just got to bring in some
Andrew
big numbers.
McLeod,
Must
yes.
have a number 23 in your
Got to have a
collection.
23. I'm lucky I've got 2 in the collection. I've parted with a couple, one to the guy next to me.
Yes.
Don't you hate bills? This 23, which I picked up a little while ago, bit of a trade for a jumper that someone else wanted, and actually had to put a bit of cash in as well, because obviously McLeod's worth more than most players.
Yes.
And that one there, which is a 32. So
You've got to have a 32 and a 23.
Got to have a 32 and a
I've said
23.
this all along. You must have a 22 and a 33. 32 and a 23. Shut up, Damon.
So this is the
Look at that.
2001 away,
Yep, and this is
and
the
that's
2000.
the 2000 away.
Now, if we were to hold him up and be absolute train spotters here,
Oh, yeah.
we'll be able to spot the very subtle but definite differences in the two different jumpers. And I'll give you a clue. One's Fila, one's Adidas. And I'll give you another clue. It's all in the collar.
Yeah.
So you've got the different Fila trying to emulate Adidas in a lot of ways.
Yes.
I think Adidas always does it best. But
Yeah, the
that's
Adidas
just
stuff
me.
was lovely.
Look at that. And the big shield. So
Yes.
this was not a player issue, but when I was a kid, this jumper was my first ever footy jumper.
Yep.
I'm sure there's a lot of Crows fans out there that are in the same sort of boat, but
Yes.
this is my era
Yeah.
of Crows. This
Yep.
is what I grew up with.
Yeah.
This is the jumper that I still got in my collection. I'm bringing out for special occasions.
Yes.
Adore it.
Yeah,
the fact
that
that
is
it's a
really
32 and a 23,
Yeah.
even better.
Some awesome numbers.
And the
there.
last
Some
one that I
awesome
brought
players.
along, partly because this is a guy that I was chasing for ages, and I've got a
Yeah,
quick story about this guy.
Yes.
So, Mark Bickley.
Yep.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Mark Bickley. When I first started collecting jumpers, back in the days when you could buy them off the racks at Chromania, which was a great idea.
Yep.
Walk
Bring
up and
it
just-
back.
Yeah, that's right. Pick out your player for $100. Oh, there's a Martin Judo for $100. I'll take that.
Yes, please. Yeah.
Those days are long gone. But what was interesting was at the time, so this is around sort of 1999-ish, I had 3 jumpers early on in my collection: a Mark Bickley, a Sean Wren, and a Nigel Smart.
Can't complain
as well
at
as
all.
well as a couple of other good ones.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Wow.
long story short, my wife and I decided to purchase a house, which was also a good idea, so I'm not complaining about that.
No.
But unfortunately, at the time, I went, what have I got that I'll get a little bit of money for? And
Yeah.
sold all 3.
Right.
So sold 3 of what would now be my better jumpers.
Yeah.
Couldn't, for the love of me, find a 26. This guy next to me messaged me some months ago, this is quite a while ago now, says, I've found this 26 jumper. I won't say what he paid for it and where he got it. But I found this, I said, can't believe you found it 26. But they just don't turn up because obviously dual premiership captain, one of our great players, a lovely guy. So yeah, Bickley stuff is pretty tricky to track down. And to be honest, it's like a lot of these players. The thing that's tricky is when people have them.
And they
tend to keep them.
Yeah.
So
well, what do we say? It's very much a you were talking before about setting prices and things like that. So it's in a lot of ways it's kind of a buyer's market, but then in more ways, in what you're describing now, it's very much a seller's market. If you've got something in your collection that you don't want anyone to see the light of day, that's your prerogative.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So it just comes to a question: is what would be your favourite jumper? You've bought a few absolute great ones.
Now it's interesting. I didn't bring it in, and it's one that I've reasonably recently gotten hold of. Doesn't look like it's a match worn jumper. I think it's probably a player issue jumper, but I did recently pick up a Darren Jarman jumper.
Nice.
Yeah.
And I think it's an interesting story. So I follow Sturt, but my grandfather followed North Adelaide. So I always had sort of a second team North Adelaide mentality because of my grandfather.
You'd be happy with that?
I'm very happy with that. Yeah.
There we go. Yes. Of that vintage where I went to a lot of SANFL grand finals through the 70s and 80s. And I still remember being disappointed for North losing in 85 and 86 to Glenelg, but both those teams were amazing Glenelg teams, particularly the 85 with Coonahan in the team.
Yes. He was a handy player.
Yeah, that's right. He was
useful.
He was very, very useful. But I'll never forget the 87 grand final, desperately wanting North to finally have success. I live close to Gazer.
Yep.
Obviously, the Jarman boys played junior footy there. And that first goal that Darren kicked in that grand final is out in the sort of right out in the pocket, left foot, kicks this ridiculous goal, which we all know he could do.
Yes.
So, I just had always been a big Darren Jarman fan, even though I didn't follow North strongly, but just had always been a big fan of him and of Andrew as well, but just particularly Darren. 1996 comes. I'd always been a Crows attendee, but never actually bitten the bullet and gone, I'm going to be a season ticket holder.
Yep.
Yeah.
So the whole Darren Jarman deal happens, and I'm like, said to my wife, and of course this is pre-Port Adelaide, so my wife at this stage was still on the good side.
Yes.
She was still a very keen Crows fan.
Yeah.
And
Before corruption.
Exactly. She'll tell you that she went to the 1993 prelim and was in tears that they lost. And
doesn't change anything she's decided upon.
No, that's right. It's still wrong. It's still wrong. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. Nicole, still love you. So what was interesting was that first season, 96, did the whole lined up at Bass, which was down the bottom of Festival Theatre back then.
Yep.
And they'd have those tickets that weren't renewed. So there'd be 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 tickets that weren't renewed.
Right.
And you could get your season ticket holder. So 96 was actually the first year that I was a proper season ticket holder and have been ever since. So part of that was the whole, I've got to watch Darren Jarman play for the Crows, for my team. He's not playing for Sturt, but he's playing for my team. That was just awesome. And his 96 season was pretty good, but then obviously the rest is history in terms
of course,
showing his amazing class. Now, I'm just going to quickly show something that's probably a little bit sadder. I don't know whether
I can see a logo on here that I don't think I want to see.
So a few years ago, the Crows had some minor success in one season.
It looks like we were going to have...
Give me 1 second.
No, that's
problem.
fine.
Take your
Leighton
time.
and I will pad in the meantime.
Yeah.
It's... I'm loving this.
Yeah.
Obviously, but it's the stories and the...
Definitely.
What it means to you as an individual.
I tried to bring in items that were things you could talk about more than just this is a jumper, this is a book.
Yep.
So one of the things I've done over the years is I've loved collecting autographs of Crows players, and I've sort of had this first 10-year book signed by various people when I've met them, which has been great.
A couple of good names in there,
mate. Yeah, I think probably Robert Shaw's the only coach I haven't tracked down.
That's fine.
But we'll get him one day. But my quick story of this was just that I went to the very excited. I mean, interesting when I say excited. I was a big Brenton Sanderson fan. I actually thought, for want of not making a grand final, he'd probably still be there coaching. Although I know there was obviously some other issues we didn't realise. But turned up to the AGM meeting when Phil Walsh was being introduced.
Yep.
And was just a really lovely, probably a good 10 minutes that he spent with myself and a friend of mine that were there. Right. I said, Phil, would you mind signing my book? Which was lovely. You're the new coach.
Yeah.
Chatted to him, and we talked about the players. We talked about Jake Lever. We talked about some of the draftees, and he was just so his knowledge and intensity around football was fantastic. Yeah. So that was lovely. It was a really lovely sort of 10 minutes he spent with us as a couple of fans at the AGM.
Yeah.
And obviously it was lovely that had his autograph, and obviously terribly sad what happened.
Yeah, absolutely.
But this was a weird thing that I bought some time ago, because obviously as season ticket holders, you actually have your season ticket to go to a game, so there's not any special ticket for a special game.
Yes.
Yeah.
But someone had this on eBay, and he actually had 6 of them. I bought all of them. But it's terribly sad, because this is actually one of the Ticketek tickets for general admission for the cancelled game.
Right.
So
That's incredible.
So that's actually the Geelong Adelaide game that was cancelled because of Phil's death. Terribly sad. And the other interesting little story in terms of memorabilia that, sort of sad memorabilia to think about as memorabilia, but obviously they also produced the football record for that game.
Yes.
Right.
And I remember saying to one of the guys, might sound like a bit of a morbid question, but, do you have, what happened to these footy records? He said, no, the AFL said, we're just pulping the whole lot of them.
Do you know, probably there's part of me, the collector in me, the historian in me, that goes, what a shame. It would be nice to know where that is. But on the other side,
sense from the
you can understand why they did it.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So, it's sort of an unusual little thing. I just thought, it's that game that we sort of remember the reason we didn't go to the game and it was cancelled.
Yeah.
But so just an unusual little ticket. And
on that game, I look back now at the discussion that we had. It was a very
whether they should play or not.
I feel now, and I think then as well, I still feel very immature conversation that people were having about that game.
Should they play?
A lot of people were saying like, but imagine the boys get out there and they'd want to do it for Walsham. Like, they were grieving. Like we had 18-year-olds who had just lost the biggest.
And not only that, but
life.
when we did then play West Coast, we saw how upset the players were at the end of that game, which was the first time they played.
Yeah.
So incredibly difficult time. Just onto something a little bit different. I do have the poster there, but we all remember.
Oh, caramel milk.
I do remember caramel
the
milk.
old Crows caramel milk.
Wow.
Look at that.
Very bizarre sticker that I don't know.
Try and get a deal.
Good old Claude.
Yeah, Claude's on everything.
So where
do you remember having one of those? Were they any good?
Now this is a weird story. I probably do remember drinking it, but it would have just been horrible caramel. Would have probably sold on the Crows factor alone. But it was interesting. A guy on Facebook Marketplace about 6 months ago had a 300ml container that he'd found somewhere, I think, like demolishing a house.
Opened, surely.
Yes, opened. But he just had the little container. He literally had the Crow's milk 300ml. And there's another collector that I know who does have an open 600ml.
Right. I saw this.
Yes, he got a bit of airplay.
He got a bit of traction.
He did. And it was interesting because I messaged him and said, look, I'm interested. It looks horrid, like it was all dirty and a bit horrid. But I said, this is just a weird item. I'm sort of interested. But that was one of those cases where he was like, if it's not $100 or more, I'm not interested. And I said, it's lovely, but I'm not paying $100.
It's too weird and smelly for $100.
That's right, for $100. So I let that one slide, but the sticker's sort of good enough.
Yeah.
We were talking before about the Peter Bennett footy card. So that's the series.
Right.
Which is a bit lower.
Very classic looking.
Yep.
Footy card, isn't it?
The whole sort of Stimmerol chewing gum. And interestingly, as Leighton probably has picked up, not even sure that they're even wearing the proper Crows jumper. I don't even quite know what that is. It possibly is, but...
it might be. They might have added the patch later, but...
Yeah, it doesn't have the Camry. So it's almost like this is before Camry was announced.
As a sponsor.
Yeah. I'm trying to get the timelines in my head because I feel like Camry was involved from very early on.
Yeah.
And the jumpers were almost a last-minute decision. So maybe that is from that very magic 2 or 3 days, maybe even. Or maybe a week. Maybe I'm being a little
they went and
too...
took the photos of just random players, obviously, because they didn't...
Well, exactly. Who's still going to be around?
Yeah.
I mean, that bloke's a pretty safe bet.
Yeah, that's right. He was always going to be the skipper.
Yep.
I've actually had one conversation with a couple of players about these cards when I've got them to sign them.
Yep.
And the interesting one was Simon Tregenza.
Yeah.
And I got Trigger to sign it because obviously he loves this stat, which why wouldn't you? Which is, of course, he had the first ever kick for the club.
Yep.
And I remember saying to him, do you mind signing the card? He said, these... I said, looks like you're, doing training or something at West Lakes. You got the water in the background. He said, oh my God. He said, those photos. He said, Cornsey absolutely flogged us, and we were exhausted. And he had the whole story. He's like, he said, Cornsey flogged us. He said, we were all exhausted. He said, we looked terrible in those photos, and blah, blah. He said, we just got called over, and do we want to take a photo of you?
Yeah.
And obviously, he was wrapped that he got on the card. But
Totally. Stand still, smile.
But, yeah, that's
click.
right.
Red
Yep.
face.
But they all look a bit sort of like, we've just finished training. Can you just?
Well, Bones is lucky in this regard because he was never an oil painting to begin with.
No,
so
that's true.
you
That's
never
true.
know.
Yeah, that's
Bones,
true.
if you're watching, I apologise.
Yeah.
Lovely bloke.
So these are just some of my cards that I've had sort of graded by some of the grading companies.
Yeah,
just to,
very nice.
sort of a bit of a thing just to keep them in nice condition. But that's the first Mark Bickley card from 1992.
Just make it a bit lower. There we go. With close-up camera.
1992. So, Stimmerol was the last year of the Scanlon's Footy Club, the famous, Scanlon's Footy cards. And then 1992, this Regina company, which I think was a New South Wales-based manufacturer and, had chewing gum in them again. They had it for 1 year, and then we famously have now had select footy cards since 1993 to now.
If they're from New South Wales, they wouldn't even know who the blokes are.
No,
on the photos,
that's right.
They wouldn't have had a clue.
So I've had a couple of the AFLW ones done for the
nice.
for the women. That Chelsea
So is
one
that
I
from
love.
the 2018 card? But there's a photo of 2017?
Yes, it is.
Right.
Yeah, that's right. So it's sort of pretty much always the year before
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
in the old photos. And one of my absolute favourites,
Oh,
Rocket
wow.
Maynard.
Yes. Yeah.
Love it.
He was a ripper. So that's a 93. That's the first set of the
The select.
select set,
Yes.
which was actually interesting because they're a slightly smaller design than the standard size card.
Oh, they are too.
Made in Italy, which was quite interesting. So
They
obviously
definitely
was it?
wouldn't know who the blokes are on the
no,
front of the card.
that's right. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, this is how we do it. And had to bring in two more. The Tex Walker,
Tex Walker.
Rookie card.
Awesome.
that's his first one.
Yeah.
Wow.
The pre-mullet days.
Yeah, that's right. He's still, I think he's got a bit of colour in there. Got a bit of colour
Oh,
in
yeah.
there.
The old
Yep.
blonde tips.
Yep.
And this is probably one of
Magnificent.
my favourites because if ever you were going to get something correct on the side of a card,
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
would be Andrew McLeod's rookie card, which says Future Star.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So
He's definitely a
1996,
future star.
Definitely.
1996, he's obviously did a few special things in 95.
Yeah.
That's pretty
And,
early.
yeah, it is. And so
to
all of a
call
sudden it's
future
like,
star, yeah.
this was like a subset that had Future Star,
Wow.
of which many of the players didn't become stars.
No.
But
Someone
obviously
called it right.
McLeod is one that did. So
So just on footy cards, you've got to ask what your thoughts are on the new fad of adding the
Jumpers?
Yeah, cutting up match-worn jumpers and adding them to
Yeah.
a set of X amount of cards.
So just to jump in before you do, we our mate Ben, who's from the podcast, we did a Get You Crying with him a little while ago. He was showing some of his set, and I remember just recoiling when he showed me that someone had taken the match
because
worn
he
jumper.
didn't know
Yes.
up until that recording that
And
that
they
was the
cut
thing.
up the jumper and
Yeah.
put it in the
Yeah.
and
very much an American fad. It
Yeah.
started to take over here. I sort of don't mind it in the sense that in some ways the more modern jumpers they should be able to get their hands on. There's been some Tex Walker stuff and there's been some
Yeah.
Sam Jacobs stuff done. So, yeah, you can sort of get your hands on those jumpers without ruining the pool of jumpers that are available for the rest of the public. But, yeah, it's certainly a massive thing in American sport.
Yeah.
You know, cut up all the NBA jumpers and all this sort of stuff. So it's huge. In fact, it was, I think Panini, the company that has the license for a lot of the stuff over there now, had a whole video they did of cutting up like a $80,000 jumper. They paid literally like $80,000 for this Boston player's jumper, like
You
a
have to be
Hall,
careful,
like a
cut
Hall
up.
of Fame guy, like
Yeah.
a great player, and you see it at the factory all being cut up and put into these cards.
Oh.
It's quite incredible.
it makes me feel so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And that's someone's job. Someone is not being punished for that. Someone's being paid for that to
that's
chop
right.
up a priceless jumper.
Yep, that's right. And it's actually a fascinating video to watch in terms of how they do it.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because I think the companies now are sort of looking at, should they go back and try and do older players? But I think the thing with Australian sport is it's very hard to find some of these jumpers.
Absolutely.
And I think the cost is prohibitive. If you sort of said, we want a Mark Rasciuto jumper, they probably don't want to spend the money that Mark Rasciuto is going to cost to
Just
do.
be able to chop it up and put it amongst some special edition
Couple
cards.
more-
It's not worth it.
A couple more things down here. I don't know how we're going to time
No,
We're
doing
fine.
yeah.
We've got editing software, mate. We can
Yeah.
make
Beautiful.
anything last for anything.
So some time ago, I picked up some negatives long time ago.
Some negative. Wow.
And they're images from very early footy magazine.
Oh, wow.
Whoa.
Oh, look at this.
So not every Crows player on the 91 list was featured, but certainly...
Love them. Love
Plenty
the
of
move of
them.
them picking up the ball.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, the posed shots are just... they're gold. They're gold. Absolutely gold.
Yeah.
So there's Eddie Scud Hocking that we were mentioning
Yeah,
before.
the most uncomfortable looking man on the planet in that
Yeah.
pose.
Yep.
He's not enjoying life.
So would they would have been covered with graphics in the magazines, or would
No,
they
these were for the posters.
Right.
Centre spread posters, yeah.
Right.
These were the centre spread posters,
Wow.
yeah.
There you go.
Yep.
Look at the action shot.
Rocket Maynard.
Maynard.
I mean, the thing that's fascinating about these as well, I suppose, now as a historical point of view, is just Footy Park in the background.
Yeah.
Yeah,
the
definitely.
light towers, the stands.
The old scoreboard.
In fact, this is the old aluminium bench that
Yeah.
we loved.
Oh.
Did we love it? I don't know. On a very cold winter's day.
Either a very cold day or a hot day. It was horrid.
Yeah, there's never in between.
Oh, Peter McIntyre, we talked about first game heroes.
You can definitely tell it's a negative with that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's just,
that film
just a couple
edge
that I've blown up. But Peter McIntyre had that great first game. Mm-hmm. And who was? Oh, here we go. And David Marshall, we're talking about great first games, best on ground in the.
Surprisingly, not wearing sleeves.
No, not wearing the sleeves. Yeah,
Wow.
Tragedy.
Probably just thought it's a hot day. But,
Well, it must have been one of those very hot days we were talking about.
Yeah.
But I just love the posed.
Yeah.
You know, they don't do that enough anymore.
No, pure anguish on his face as he's trying to remember how to handle
That's
the footy.
right.
Look at him.
Exactly. I didn't bring it, but I've got some of this series with Mark Micken doing push-ups.
What?
And,
That's so random.
and the other ones that's classic is there's also some Stephen Schwert doing sit-ups.
Okay,
my
Yeah,
God.
sure.
just
yeah.
something a little bit different. But I don't know whether those photos actually made it into the mag. But obviously the photographer must have thought, let's get a few different things. That we're doing,
why not?
You know, and there's actually a great one of I didn't bring it, but Maynard doing a stretching routine on the. Remember the old. When you jump down onto Footy Park, there was that sort of ledge that
yes.
you know, Adelaide Oval, you walk out and it's all the same level.
Yeah, because it's a modern professional stadium.
That's
It's,
right, exactly. So, just a few little photos there.
Unbelievable.
Wow.
You are right, sorry, because the last time I went down to Footy Park, and I don't know if either of you two have been down there recently, but I've talked a lot about this on air. It's an embarrassment.
Yeah,
It's shocking.
Yeah. It is. It's surprising that, I mean, you can understand why they're talking so seriously about you need to find somewhere else to
Absolutely.
eventually end
Makes
up.
sense.
I was just going to say, I mentioned earlier that player-based items interest me the most.
Yeah.
But the only other thing that I think is as exciting as a collector, and it's because when it comes each season, you think, could this be our year?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The season tickets. It's the old season ticket.
Oh, wow.
So, you know, when you get the postie comes and he says, here, you got to sign for this. It's your 3 season tickets for the year.
Yep. Look at these.
Wow.
And you
That's
just
awesome. We've got to try and get a good shot of that for sure.
Absolutely.
That's good.
So, before you go on, are all of these yours, or
No,
are some of these you had to
this
track
is,
down?
no, this is
So if you started in 96, do you have all of yours from 96?
Yeah, I've kept most of them.
Right.
Yeah, pretty much most of my own. I mean, there's probably smatterings of stuff in here would have my name on the back of them. But the interesting one is the top one, the 1991, doesn't have any mention whatsoever of the Crows logos or anything.
It's just Adelaide,
Adelaide Football Club. Yeah.
So that would have been
Season
created.
Yeah.
One of the first things I would have done then.
Yep. Let's just get this ticket out there for season ticket holders.
Amazing.
And I mean, obviously back in the day as well, they would do a lot of. You notice on the back, if you went to the away games, they'd actually crimp it.
It's a right.
Yeah, so they crimped the back. There was no sort of no barcodes back then.
No, not digital at all.
Yeah.
That's amazing that you've got one in such amazing.
Yeah, that is incredible. That one.
It's
I do
not
have
been-
some that are crimped.
Yeah.
But that one is a bit of
just
an
see around
oddity.
the
It's almost
edges.
as if someone sort of got the membership and never went.
Or they knew what this was.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
They may well have just put it in a drawer and said, I'm just going to hang on to it.
A collector after her own heart, someone that didn't chop up the...
That is very unique because you don't... you almost never see one that doesn't have any logo at all.
No, that's right.
It's real
exactly,
strange.
yeah. But, and, even just the, obviously Camry on lots of these early ones.
Yep.
These ones are interesting. The season membership past this squadron. AFL squadron was like a junior membership and then it just had Adelaide on it.
So just got to try and get it in the shot. There we go.
Yep. Be happy to move me around.
Yeah,
So there's my famous 96. I don't know if that's actually mine or not, but that's the 96, the first season I was a season ticket holder.
Yes.
But they used to do this as well, Victorian
Victorian
member
members.
96. So
I think they still
unusual.
do
now they call
that.
it an interstate membership. I think
yeah.
is what it's called.
that's right. And of course, the best one ever.
Absolutely.
97. And it looks
The
good, by the way.
does.
It does.
Yeah.
It's a nice ticket.
It
It's
is.
a really cool ticket.
So
and then
so
the
does that
98's not
mean-
too bad, but the 98's a little bit on the dull side in terms of.
So does that mean if you make a good ticket, we'll win the premiership?
More to hope
Yes.
so.
You'd hope
Let's just
so,
go with
yeah.
yes. Mine's
Yeah.
got a hero written on mine at the
Yes.
moment, so
Yeah, that's
hopefully
right.
that means something for this
Yep.
year.
So there's
Exactly.
a few missing gaps.
So
So they're ones that
not so
slight
much that. I
variance.
just sort of tried to do them in years. So
Right,
that's sort of
right.
most of. There's probably a couple of. You always have your corporate memberships,
Oh,
which
yeah,
are, those ones you're sort of just finding them whenever you can. But
it'll be hard.
So there's the 99. Obviously, they went. Let's go and put the 98 grand final photo
As
on.
you
Which
should.
is nice.
Yeah.
Then they went captain. They used to do captain a bit.
Oh, that's
As
brilliant.
Oh, yeah. No, that's going good.
So Bickley.
Wow.
So there's a few different, squadrons again. And Crow's Nest, you had all your junior memberships.
I remember being a
bronze
Crow's Nest
membership.
member.
Yeah,
Yes.
the Crow's Nest, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, we could never afford it.
And I suppose the thing that's interesting too is all the different campaigns, all fired up and
All different slogans trying to get
different
people
slogans, all that sort
Get
of
them
stuff.
involved, get them in, yeah.
It's my life.
I like
It's-
that.
oh gosh.
It's
Classic.
my life. It's almost like someone had the Bon Jovi song in their
Peak
head.
early noughties.
Yep.
Yeah.
Obviously Rue and as a junior supporter, which was nice.
You'd love to find that junior supporter now and find out what they're doing and
Yeah,
hear their story,
yeah.
wouldn't you?
A couple of sort of interesting life member ones there that I've traded with,
Wow.
Oh wow.
over the years. And Rue
Will
again.
that still work?
No.
Will that still work? Your life member?
Good try.
Yeah.
Just pull it out and say,
Yeah.
I'm Ben Hart.
Do you know who I am? Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. I've greyed a little bit.
Yeah.
Always quite like this one with the three of our 300 game
Oh
players,
yeah.
which is nice. So anyway, just sort of obviously Rashudo was captain for a while.
Yes.
so he's
Yeah,
quite a bit.
Was, yeah.
Then they'd sort of changed to a few different guys. Brent Riley got a Guernsey here and Tomo.
Yep.
Just anyway, the old season ticket's always
They're
an
great.
enjoyable
They're
time
fantastic.
and then some of these got a bit on the too
Oh,
hard basket.
Then that's where we're.
And then they went sort of, let's do all the players on all the different...
Oh gosh.
Look at some of the faces that should not be included.
yeah,
here.
I know.
There's one standing right
Is
in
there
the middle
Tippett there? I'm trying. Yeah, Tippo's in there. Isn't he? Yep.
What is he doing there?
Yep.
Classic.
Yeah. Cost us a lot of money once upon a time, that
Yep.
man.
There's he's got a Guernsey
Anyway.
here again.
Yep.
So there we go. Yeah, it's sort of the season ticket. It's one of those things. Like I said, it's not a player issue thing, but
No, but that's phenomenal.
it's just always fun. Your season ticket comes and you think,
Yeah.
could it be? I mean, I don't think any of us got the '97 season ticket and went, gee, we might actually win the flag this
No.
year.
Yeah,
We've just had
surely
2
not.
crap years.
Oh, yeah.
We're rebuilding with this new coach.
Yes.
So that's those. Did I bring over? Oh yeah, I'll pass that to you for 1 second.
No, all good, all good.
While you're doing that too, so another thing that we've talked about, something in particular that we talked to, I think it was Harry about his tracksuits.
Yes.
If you've got something unique about your collection,
Yep.
that definitely makes it more special, doesn't it? Because it helps
Yeah.
you to focus your aim, it helps you to
Yeah.
know what you're looking for, and then in the online community, if someone knows you as that guy that collects the season ticket
It'll
holders,
tag you and
Yeah.
everything.
exactly, yeah.
Exactly. Shut that down then. And of course, the other thing that comes with the season ticket, which interestingly in collectibles, this is one of the most popular things. You
Right.
ask most Crows fans, is there any things you keep? They keep their membership
Yes.
badge.
Of course,
yes.
yeah.
Yep.
So
Most common thing, but definitely rare to see the
Yeah.
whole sort of
All
collection.
the way back from. I mean, I know I've lost more of mine than I've kept,
Yes,
which is
yeah.
a tragedy.
well, I said
but-
that to my sister a couple of years ago. I said something about membership badges, and she said, "Oh, yeah, we had some of those. I just chucked them out."
Yeah.
So look, end
Yeah.
of season, you just think, "Oh, I don't really hang on to them."
Yeah.
But of course, interestingly, the first year was technically a membership keyring.
Okay.
Or they're just for I have spares of this, obviously, but which do have the keyring on, but for the sake of putting them in the album. And interestingly, they went with the sort of year pin, which was a big thing for a long time.
I like
92,
that.
93, 94. So you just
Yep.
change a year pin.
It's
Interesting.
sensible. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah, that's right. You're just trying to save a little bit of money. Apart from these first 4 or 5 years, which are actually quite hard to find now.
Then they start
very hard to
changing
find
up.
in '97.
Ah.
I wonder why.
Classic.
Well,
Yeah,
was
first
it-
premiership, no one's parting with it.
Well, was it the club who didn't have one?
Yeah, that's right. When I did some helping out when the club had their museum, I lent a few things to the museum.
Right.
I remember talking to Trevor, who was involved in starting that project. And I remember he rang me one day and he said, "Oh, Andrew," he said, "you don't have a spare 1997 pin, do you? We don't seem to be able to find one."
Unbelievable.
I was like,
That's
"Yeah, we've got one.
crazy.
Got a
Like,
spare one."
guys, that is your job.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I think that sometimes with the clubs, they're just so busy running day to day.
Of course.
They get to the end of the year, but there almost needs to be someone, and they do have those people now, I think, who just says, "We need to keep the tickets, need to keep the pins,
Yep.
put them in a drawer. It's not hard."
No.
And even if you then just digitally put them up to show people,
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's
makes
been
a
some
lot of
big
sense.
efforts, especially in the SANFL community.
Yes,
There's been a lot of
great
guys
stuff.
Yeah, doing some amazing. They had an office on Port Road, I remember faintly,
Yes.
where they were actually getting people to
Oh,
come in
right.
and digitize your old budgets and
Yes.
your old
Yep.
posters and stuff,
which is a great way of doing it for actually keeping it, because
Yep.
that's the thing. A lot of stuff, some things, you just got to be very careful. with.
Yeah, you gotta
absolutely.
like.
But obviously,
store
it
them
did a lot
in
of
some amount of way.
once we won the premierships, it became you're a gold member
Yep.
to get a ticket. So of course the gold membership
Right,
just became a big
right.
thing. So yeah, just sort of all the various, and of course again the Victorian memberships.
Right.
Things like Captain's Club, which were
Yeah.
some of those very high levels of memberships. But
Yeah.
and I've always liked that one with the
Oh, it's beautiful.
map of Victoria down the
I
bottom,
love it.
which is unusual.
Just the subtle little thing in that too. The Victoria's red.
That's right.
Which I would have thought would annoy some
Danger,
Victorians.
danger.
Yeah, that's it.
Yep, exactly.
Do not approach.
So yeah, that's just sort of. I remember what that comes up to about 2005.
Yeah, some really nice early ones there.
So yeah, it's just one of those things. Memberships are just one of those things that people tend to hang on to, which is great. I mean, I sort of like the fact that people go, "Yeah, I'm going to hang on to my different years of memberships."
I love that yours is stuck in a proper album too, not on a scarf or a hat somewhere.
Yeah,
just
I thought about doing that, but the amount of people I've seen at footy with their hat, filled with badges, and then you'll see an ad that says, "I had my hat, I lost it at the football.
Exactly.
Does anyone have spare 2013, 2014? Because I've lost them all." So yeah, that's always the problem. Is
And I remember doing that when I was a kid, but the hat, when you wear it, all the metal pins, it hurts
So
your head.
uncomfortable.
Yeah.
That's why I do it with a scarf now.
yeah,
I
I
actually
take this off for 1 second.
No
and just
problem.
grab some more.
totally fine. I'll tell a quick story while you're doing that.
Yeah.
The Roosters grand final a few years ago, I was just wearing a Rooster snapback at the time. I like the snapback designs. And it disappeared on the hill when we kicked.
Really?
I think it was the last goal of the game. We kicked it, and I had a bloke from about 2 rows back on the hill leap on my back, and I piggybacked him around the hill for a little bit, partly just out of momentum and out of sheer inertia, and partly out of joy. And when I dropped him back down, gave him a hug, turned and gave my mate a hug. The hat wasn't just gone in the sense that it was off my head. It had disappeared off there. We stayed back for a little while too, looking through for it.
It was gone.
It was gone.
Wow.
So someone has walked out of that game with thinking it's a bit of memorabilia.
Yes.
It's it's just my hat. If you
Yeah.
found a hat on the hill, you know how to find me. Greenville Road. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe have you taken the vice and put it in a folder now?
I just should, shouldn't I?
Yeah.
Yeah. But then I spent more than enough money on North Adelaide
Yes,
memorabilia
merch.
after that. So more than
Yeah.
replaced it.
Yeah.
The other thing I was mentioning before is I do have a fairly big autograph collection, which I haven't brought. I think I'm missing probably 20 players' autographs of people that have played one game or more.
That many.
That's crazy.
So whatever we've had 238 players, I'm probably just over 200.
That's insane.
But
That's
one of
crazy.
the things that'll often get signed, of course, is
The cards.
the cards, because
Yes.
obviously it's the easiest thing to approach a player
You've
with.
even got a 9-year-old Brent Riley there.
Yeah, that's right.
Look at how young he is.
Some very
My
early
God.
sort of guys like Marty Matner,
Yep.
Robert Shirley's a great player, Dogger. So, I mean, again, with these, I've just sort of done them in series, and there's probably the odd one or two.
Yeah.
Sometimes I haven't chased really hard. If it's like your 8th Tyson Edwards autograph, it's like, I don't have to get...
No, leave it for
sure.
someone that's got none.
That's right. Whereas if it's, Luke Jericho,
Yes.
you're like, yes, I
doesn't
need that
come up.
autograph. He's not going to be on a lot of stuff.
No.
Not anymore. No.
Regrettably.
Yeah, so... again, just sort of, and it's interesting. We were talking before, even like the sort of different jumper designs on the cards,
Oh, yeah.
all the different eras that.
I love the classic 2000s Adidas.
The red.
Yeah, that's right. But it's always good too. Like you get the sort of thing that always surprises me is a little tip for anyone getting autographs: approach a player when they're a rookie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Beautiful autograph.
I'll sign anything.
Happy to do it.
Yeah.
Have a chat with you.
Yep.
When they've played 100 games, it's like
They're a bit bored. I found that when I went to, after we won the Wizard Cup, I think it was back in the day.
Oh, 2003.
Yeah, went down to the airport with my parents with my little autograph book, and you're absolutely right. Some of the younger blokes were like, "G'day, mate, how are you?" And they want to shake your hand and sign it.
Exactly.
And then you walk up to Andrew McLeod and go, "Oh, gee, mate, you're my hero."
Yeah.
He just takes it off you without even looking at you. He signs it and hands it back because he's Andrew McLeod.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep. And I mean, the other thing that's interesting too is, just as a little side thing, the players, and I understand this, they're asked to sign so many things now, and obviously do have some people getting things signed and then selling them and all that, so that's a bit of an issue.
Yeah,
true.
But it is interesting, nowadays, some of the players, like say Taylor Walker, he would just do a TW.
Yep.
TW13, it's quick.
Yep.
It's still his autograph, which is fine. But getting a full Taylor Walker is much harder.
Yeah.
Sloane's always been very good. He's never changed doing the full autograph. And of course, the other thing that is always very helpful is, particularly if it's on a piece of paper, is having the jumper number.
Yes.
Yes.
Like, who the hell was that?
Absolutely.
Oh, no idea. I see
You get it home and you think, that's right, I don't remember who that was.
Indecipherable,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's a bit tricky. Oh, there's Tippo again.
No.
And I mean, even the guys that, not there for a long time, Sean McKernan's, it's just a good little record of the history. And I mean, this is another one too, Ian Callanan.
Yeah.
He was down at the game in Tassie
Yeah,
on the weekend.
I was about to say. I
Great
saw
to
him.
see those photos.
It was really good. And John Klug giving the jumper as well.
Yep.
So, it's just another little side thing that I'd like to do. But COVID's been very interesting because a couple of my friends that are big autograph collectors, particularly in Melbourne, they've said anything
No.
2019, 2020, no one's going to have anything
No,
signed.
they're barred from the gates pretty much,
Yep,
yeah.
can't get there, can't get access to the players.
I mean, it's
really
fair
tricky.
enough, but it does make it tricky.
It does make it frustrating.
Well, a lot of guys will be going back in years to come and go, could you sign this whole set of 2020, cards?
Yeah, there's going to be a few. No, mate.
Yeah, that's right. I'm not going to
do that.
Can't
yeah.
do it. Now, I know we're probably...
Or it's going to be just like a real quick squiggle you
Be a
can't
stamp.
recognise.
Yeah.
It'll be a stamp. They'll have their signature done in a press, ready to go.
Now, this is a bit of a weird item that I picked up.
You've said that about a few of your items,
Yeah.
mate.
Yeah, well,
I
this
like
is sort of like you
Excites me.
don't normally go online looking for this, thinking I'll really want to purchase some grand final stats.
No, I can get them for you now.
Yeah, that's
Them,
right.
mate, but-
So what happened was on eBay for quite some months, there was a guy out of Victoria wanted $500 for this group of stats.
That seems like a lot to
Yes.
me.
Yeah, from the coach's box.
Oh, okay.
There it is.
Yes.
From the
There's
grand final.
reason. Yep.
Yeah,
Right.
there we go.
So
Wow.
I ummed and ahed about it. I thought 500 is just a lot of money.
It
They're
is.
very cool, and I desperately wanted to buy them straight
And you
away.
would want to know too. How do you?
Yeah, that's right. So the
verify it?
interesting story behind who it was, and at least
Yeah.
this seems to be the case, it was actually the guy who was a police officer on the day
Okay.
who was given Stan Alves to help with security.
Right.
So that was, and he had a whole spiel about how he got these things. So it was all quite legit.
Yeah.
Anyway, they didn't sell and they didn't sell. Eventually they came down to sort of $150 or something. This is a long time ago. And I just thought, I've got to buy them.
Oh, snatch them. Yeah.
So yeah, basically it was, his story was that he'd gone into the rooms after the match had all finished and people wandered away, and literally in the bin
In the bit
of the coach's box
Wow.
in the 97 grand final was a handful, just these 3 or 4 sheets of stats.
Wow.
So the carbon copies of some of them carbon
Yeah.
copies.
So,
Hence the blue
so the
paper.
operator is the person who's written them?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, and so this operator, is obviously the Crows stats person, etc.
Right.
Complete match stats. So that's like quarter 2, I think it is, or 3. Who's kicked,
Wow.
etc.
Wow.
The other one that was this one here was so operator Steve Teeley. I've actually never got in touch with Steve to sort of say, hey, do you remember these? But so there's the grand final statistics extra, turnover, fumble, drop mark, etc.
Wow.
Yeah.
My God, and it's authentic too because look at the ink smears.
Yeah,
Look at
that's
that.
right, yeah.
That has been handled.
Yeah.
That has been
Handwritten,
used. It's been,
yeah.
handwritten.
Adelaide Football Club statistics inside 50s.
Oh my God.
Oh, Andrew, wow.
You don't,
crazy.
you don't see that.
Just
Ever.
crazy.
Jeez.
Actually, can we grab that and hand it up to
Yeah,
that
that's a
there?
big, nice
Yep.
one to show.
Wow. I'm going to just study it for a little bit before I show
So
the
that's
audience.
the detailed statistics on the front, and then
Yep.
My God. And then
on the back you see a ruler and a pen.
drawn in where they've had their...
So that's
Where-
where they
yeah.
chipped it. That's
Yep.
the inside 50.
That's where they've marked. Now, some of these stats I think look like they've then gone into a computer, but some of them haven't. Obviously,
Yeah,
they've stayed in
yeah,
those
yeah.
books.
Sure, yeah.
And my guess is the club does have some of these stats, but obviously there's all the different players and etc.
Yeah, yeah.
And interestingly, this one was Adelaide Football Club umpires ball. So number 17, Keogh, time 000, Harvey 350, Adelaide Football Club, Wren, blah blah blah. So it's like all the the different times the umpire had the ball, etc.
Wow.
Yeah, so some crazy stuff.
What,
now the interesting
what stats is going to be used for that?
So that'd be... Well, the umpire would have the ball for a baller
Right.
Yes.
or a throw-in. So that's maybe who the last touch was, or
Yeah,
who they
something
took,
like that.
literally who they took
Yes.
the ball from.
Yeah, who had the ball? Yeah. I mean, you'd have to ask
I've
the
never
stats
heard
guy.
of them collecting that,
Yeah.
but that's...
Yeah. Now,
I'm
the interesting
besotted
part
by
of
this.
the story was, and the thing that got me really wanting these stats, was this handwritten note, which was a bit motivational. Now, unfortunately, the
Right.
story doesn't have a happy ending, but I'll tell you the story. So, there is no tomorrow. All your something to recover. When it's your turn to put yourself under pressure, answer in a positive, concentration, focus. Come to the ground with a headspace. You don't get beaten in grand finals. Whatever it takes has to be done. Now, so I'm thinking to myself, is that Stan Alves?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that Malcolm Blight?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I thought I've just got to ask at least Blighty the question.
Oh, absolutely. Was this you?
Was this you that wrote it? Because I'm going like, that's the best piece if it is.
Isn't
I
it?
reckon.
So I did some photocopies of these, sent them to Blighty at, I'm trying to think of the radio station he was doing his show, might still be doing it. And hadn't heard anything back for a little while. And I'm driving along doing my job at work. Phone rings, a mobile phone number. I've got no idea who it is. Answer the phone. Hi, Andrew, it's Malcolm Blight.
There you go.
Yeah.
And
I'm just
crashed
like,
the van.
Crashed the van, yeah, that's right. Pulled over, whacked the handbrake on, stopped shaking, thinking, right, what do I need to ask him?
Yep.
And I just said,
Let me organise my thoughts here.
So straight away it was like, thanks so much for calling. I hope you got the doc. He said, first of all, I was talking to John Reid. How the hell did you get these things? Blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
And I'm literally told him the story, which was a guy that was a police officer at the MCG, pulled him out, the copies, pulled him out of the bin.
Wow.
He goes, that's crazy, amazing thing that you've come across. I said, yeah. I said, and the thing I'd done in the letter to him was, is this your motivational stuff? He said, I'm sorry to tell you, but he said, no, I don't really write things down like that. He said, I've been coaching so long.
Yeah.
What I need to say to him, boom, just comes out of my head. He said it could be that it was a reserves guy, could have been whatever pre-games there were. I didn't even bother going back and looking. Could have been stand-ups, and I haven't checked stand, but I thought it's still interesting.
Possibly.
But most of this stuff was from the Crows box, so I sort of figured it's likely to have been the
Neil Craig.
Could be.
Yeah, could be. Yeah, that's right. Who knows? But anyway, so Blighty said it wasn't him.
Right.
But getting Blighty to ring you when you're at work was pretty cool.
Good story.
Yep.
I mean, it would have been better if he'd said, yes, that was mine.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Then it would have been, I should have paid 500 on the first day I saw it.
But those of us who have spoken to the Messiah and met him will say that it is a rare privilege and that you hang on every word he says. When he speaks, it's so considered and measured that there is, pardon me for swearing, there is no bullshit in that man. Everything he says is straight from the Word of God. He's an amazing person.
Yeah,
So,
and I mean the knowledge of the game and
unparalleled.
just sort of chatting to him like that.
Yeah.
The only other time I've had sort of a closer contact, not sort of actually in person, but I think he really enjoyed it, was I've got a very early, I'm trying to think what year it is, 1970. There's a poster of Malcolm Blight, and it's like a big close-up headshot of him.
Wow.
Malcolm Blight, Woodville. It's a poster from a footy magazine, so it's like an A3, black and white. And I went down to the club. I thought, I'm going to get Blighty to sign this.
Yeah.
And went to the front desk and said, would you mind asking if Malcolm would be good enough to sign this?
Yeah.
So she took it upstairs. And she came back downstairs. She said, he absolutely loved that. He said that was him as a 19-year-old. And, just showed it around all the staff. Said, look at this. This is me at 19 with Woodville Footy Club, 1970, whatever it was. And he did a beautiful autograph on the bottom, which was lovely. But I just sort of thought,
beautiful.
Those sort of guys, it's just lovely, those stories where they actually...
Because they love footy, and it's not, and it's no ego either. It's not like he's walking around going like, look at this fan keeping this of me.
Yeah, that's right.
It's like... He loves his own football journey, and he loves the fact that that's been remembered. And it'd be a real trip down memory lane. It would be amazing.
That's right. I think just the fact that it was such an early, unusual thing.
Yep. It's not just a photo from last week. From
that's right.
No, that's right. I mean, I don't keep a lot of SANFL stuff anymore just because of cost and space and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
The other weird thing I do have is I do have a ticket to the 1972 McGarry Medal.
Wow.
So that's another nice Blighty inspired piece. That,
I didn't know they ticketed those.
No.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, I just, again, like on the internet, eBay, and I'm like, what is this? It's like a little ticket, 1972 McGarry Medal presentation, such and such hotel.
Wow.
So I thought, Blighty, I've got to buy that.
My grandfather was there that night.
Oh, really?
Big Woodville West Torrens fan, my grandfather, since he immigrated out from England. And the story goes that he was, his neighbour became his best mate and said, come on down to the footy, and he took him to an Eagles game, a Warriors game, and got him into it. Right. And then a few weeks later, he's chatting to the bloke across the road, +1, just talking in the street as you do. And he says, so has anyone taken you to the footy yet, mate? And, you're a Palm. Has anyone indoctrinated you? And he says, I went with old mate and went to an Eagles game. And he says, if only I'd have known, I would have taken you to Albertson.
Oh, wow.
So I was that close to becoming, by default, through the family, a Port fan.
Port fan, because, of course, the Woodville West Torrens was so close. And, of course, that was the thing that was really tricky. That was always hard for Woodville. They were part of that sort of really strong West. You had Port was strong, the Westies had been there forever, and Torrens as well. So it was always a hard. On retrospect, you sort of think they needed a team.
A lot of competition,
absolutely.
It was sort of just another suburb. It was too close.
That's it.
So that's sort of the bulk of what I've brought in.
Wow, thanks
for today.
Thanks heaps for coming on.
Yeah,
there is more stuff.
Yes.
We will do a part 2 and then probably part 3 and a part 4 in the future.
I've really enjoyed it. It's been great. I think, like I said before, what's interesting to me often is the stories of different things, like, you know, who you've met, little conversations you've had with them is always terrific. It's a little bit like when I showed the signed football cards.
Yeah.
One of the things I've always loved doing is when there's a new series comes out, because I like to get them personally signed. There's a new series comes out, you go to training back in the good old days when it was quite easy to go to training.
Yes.
And you meet up with players and you're like, would you mind signing this footy card? And the look on someone's face, like as a player, when they realise that's their first footy card, is a lot of fun. Like, it's been a lot of fun. And I've actually, one of the things that was great was when Hugh Greenwood was first on a footy card, and this is on my Facebook page, where I've got some of these, I said, do you mind if I take a photo of you, the card? And he's holding the card up with this amazing smile. Because the key as well is that when I'm asking them to sign it, I'll always make sure I've got a couple of, because they're basically normally just your, you know, dollar commons or 50-cent commons. They're not, you're not giving them $100 cards to sign. But what I always do is say, by the way, here's 2 for you to keep.
Oh, great idea.
And because they haven't gone out and chased them, they didn't even know they were on the cards yet. So there's been a lot of nice stories. Same with Cam Ellis-Yeoman. I gave him a card when I first saw it. He's looking at it. And the best story I ever had was, trying to think who the player was. But anyway, it was at training. One of the guys was there. He signed it, and Chris Massey, who'd been at the club for some time, walked past. And what are you doing? And he goes, oh, it's, you know, I'm signing my footy card. Oh, you're on a footy card? And started paying out this young player. and then turns over the stats and goes, oh, you're not 90 kilos. You're like about 64. You know, starts paying him out. So you know, you get a lot of those good interactions with guys that have been at the club longer.
Love it.
So the kid, a lot of the younger players, it's always a big thrill when it's like, oh, it's my first footy
and that's
card.
exactly what collecting should be about, mate. It's not about the prestige in a piece. It's although that helps, and it shouldn't be about the worth of the piece. Although that helps.
Yes.
It should be about the story and the emotion that you attach to it and the connection you've got to your footy club. Yeah,
that's right. And also just sometimes with some of these things, like we said before, you might have a year where you miss things. It's interesting, when my son Callum was born in the year 2000, there's quite a bit of stuff. We lent out our season tickets to, you know, sold them on to other friends. And so it was like, oh, now I've got to get a 2000 season ticket because I never told those people to keep the ticket for me.
Thanks, Callum.
So it's all like trying to keep those, you know, things where you miss a couple of years, or, you know, you hear stories of people that travel overseas or whatever it might be. So you have that little bit of a gap in what you're doing. But, you know, you can't get everything. And the thing with collecting is you can't get everything. You won't have everything. But it's just nice to have what you do have. I think the other thing too is on one of the other podcasts, I thought I might have said this with Footy Jumpers. The thing that's lovely is you don't ever really own the things you've collected. You sort of enjoy them while you have them, you curate them and look after them while you've got them. But eventually someone else will hopefully own that and enjoy it.
That's a really wonderful way of looking at it.
You're right. So you sort of think of these things as your things or your time you've put in or your money, which is all correct. But at some stage someone else will own this jumper or this book, or... And
it's like you say about the when the club calls you up.
Yes.
For the pin. So, I mean, ultimately, we become sort of de facto historians and what's the word I'm trying to find? But we become custodians for these sort of things. And eventually, the ultimate aim, I would love to think, hopefully, would be that the club would not need fans to do these sort of things. But of course we do, because we're out there, we're active.
That's right. And you know things are being released and you think, oh, this card's... I mean, you know, classic example is the... you know, this card, you literally had to order that within 2 days. There's a 2-day window. If you didn't order it, you miss out on actually being able to order it because it's a made to order.
That's it.
So they say, you know, we're producing these cards. You got 2 days to order it. Once it's done, we print them and that's it.
Really easy to miss it in the 2-day.
Absolutely.
That's right.
It really is. Now, mate, we're going to have to wrap it up because I can hear some voices coming from down the hallway, which means that we've got
the next crew's ready.
The next, the night shift's ready to come through.
Thanks, guys.
Mate, thank you.
Yeah.
I hope everyone's enjoyed it.
Even if the viewers haven't, we have. So
be sure to check out his Facebook page. There's a lot of stuff that you haven't seen. A lot of stuff
nearly at 500 likes, which is pretty cool.
We can go up a little bit.
We can drive it up, absolutely.
You guys might just flick me over the 500.
Well, let's hope so. And if people want to get in touch with you about, you know, hey, I've got this item or whatever, it's through the Facebook page. Send you a message through that. Fantastic. Patreon listeners. Mate, you've got more than you bargained for with this episode, haven't you? Like, you've got Leighton and I learning how to use new equipment. You've got a special guest coming in. Who's this that's about to peer over my shoulder? Hello, boss man. How are you? Go, you crows! G'day, mate.
Hello, mate.
Right, that's
security's been breached.
That's so cute.
This is what happens when you don't lock doors. This is us wrapping it up. the elephant in the room. Thank you so much for joining us.
Pleasure, guys. Thank you.
Sorry about the unprofessional ending, and thank you guys, the viewers.
Yes.
Go Crows.
The Crows.